I finally found the Landcruiser I was looking for. The only issue, it was in Nicaragua. After months of paperwork, shipping delays, and inspection, it's finally here. This is my Toyota Landcruiser straight from Nicaragua to the US. In today's video, I'll walk you through the full import process, show you what I paid, the exact steps I took, and we'll go over the full vehicle since it was a bit rough and it needed a lot of work just to get it back to roadworthy purpose. If you ever thought about importing your dream vehicle, stay tuned. This has been a dream build of mine for years now, and it's finally here. The Toyota Landcruiser HCJ 75 and 78 are loved all around the world, and they're known for their durability and how versatile they are with their off-road capabilities. Now, this is why I set myself to buy one and bring it over from Nicaragua. So now that we get into exactly what is needed to bring over a vehicle of this magnitude, first you got to know exactly if it qualifies or not. Now, the vehicle has to be 25 years of age or older to be able to get into the United States. Now, for Canada, maybe a little different, and wherever you live might change. Before you shake hands with that seller and make a deal, make sure they are willing to give you the title and or bill of sale, and that they're willing to give you their identification, which is going to be needed. And also, you do want to source yourself out a good importer to be able to help you and do all the paperwork for you. You're going to need your importer exporter to do an application of the vehicle that is not being registered in the country in which you're taking the vehicle out of. So my importer was able to provide me with a application of vehicle registration. Basically, it's that they're terminating the vehicle. It's not going to be in road use for that country. Make sure you have this. Mine was in Spanish, and you're going to need to get it translated professionally here in the US. So make sure to be on the lookout for that. They're also going to ask you for this EPA form. This EPA form is 2060-0717. My importer provided this pre-filled. It's a lot of basic information, vehicle VIN, manufactured, make, model, the year. Basically, I just had to sign it, and it was ready to go. I also have this declaration form, 2127002. Again, very repetitive information, year, make, model, VIN, the date of entry, which port. So basically, all I had to do was sign it. Again, if you're forced to do this yourself, it's fairly simple. You're writing the same thing over and over several times for different departments. You're also going to need this entry form. Now, this is the 16510024 form. Again, you're writing where the vehicle is entering, what is the vehicle, the value. So this is another form you're going to need to make sure you have at hand. And another entry form. This one is 16510022. Again, they look very similar. The same information has to be put on there. I was just able to sign it down here, and that was that. And make sure you have your bill of sale or title. In my instance, it was a Spanish bill of sale in which an attorney is the one that does it, puts the seller's information, my information, the vehicle information, vehicle identification number, vehicle mileage, how much it was sold for. So it's a very in-depth bill of sale. They're going to ask you for that. And again, this document also has to get translated since it was in Spanish and needs to be in English here for the US. Other things that they're going to ask you for once you have all these things, then you're going to want to make an appointment with your local DMV, or what they like to call it, an out-of-country inspection. Usually you want to just go on the website and type it in on Google. You'll be able to provide it. There's not a lot of them. Usually it's just one per city. And they're going to ask you for insurance. So for insurance, I went with Progressive since this vehicle does not have a 17-digit VIN. You're going to have to get a custom insurance. You could go with Hagerty, but I chose Progressive. I insured it for $30,000, and I was paying monthly $256 for that. So it wasn't that bad. They're also going to ask for your driver's license and the two forms, which is your bill of sale, your vehicle that is not deemed in roadworthy from the original country which you took it out of, and a vehicle invoice. The vehicle invoice is going to be done by your importer, exporter. Basically, it's the vehicle information, how much did you pay, and it's just like an invoice itself. So all this, you take it to your local DMV or your out-of-country inspection shop. Make sure you take the vehicle with you. Hopefully they don't stop you. I drove mine. I had a plate that I wanted to use. I took it there. It was very quick. I gave her all the forms, and I actually had an agent that was very, very helpful and resourceful. I emailed her everything beforehand. So basically when I went, it was just to verify the mileage, the VIN. She filled out a specific form that they have, and with that form, you simply go to a tag agency and print out your title. And it's that easy, not that complicated.
So here you have it, my Landcruiser HCJ75 inline 6 4.2 liter diesel 4x4 5-speed manual transmission. Finally here from Nicaragua after months of waiting for this thing, and the delay was just horrible. It was right over 6 months since the day I bought it to the day that I actually received it. And it's gonna need a set of new tires and a lot of love. But it's finally here. Since this is a Toyota, you could just grab the part number and they'll cross-reference it at the Toyota dealership, which makes it a breeze to get some of these parts. As you could also see, the tires were destroyed, so I picked up a set of KM2 BF Goodrich, which set it off perfectly.
The front diff. Now all this, it's just completely leaking from the seal. And the wheel bearing is bad, so it's due. Let's get started. Always undo the refill bolt just in case you're not able to. If you drain and then you can't refill, you're gonna be in a lot of problem. Now you can clearly see how bad the leak is. I just raised the truck up, and that's what I'm faced with. And when driving, it's not supposed to do that. One big tip to be able to get this job done is you're going to need to be very, very organized. There's a E-clip that's the first thing you're going to need to take off. After that, you remove the 6 bolts to get the 4x4 unit out. Then the whole assembly comes out after you remove the big nut that holds it on. And after, you need a lot of the torque specs to put everything back on. But just to keep yourself organized, you're going to need to keep everything in order. That way you know the process to put it right back. And the torque specs, you just basically, you're going to look them up.
Now here you're gonna have the seal, then comes out your gasket, and then your metal retainer that holds that whole assembly together. You're going to want to get yourself a good brass hammer along with a set of brass punch because you're going to be using them a lot in this type of job here. I'm pushing out the race that goes on the top and the bottom since they use a bearing on top and the bottom for the steering purpose. I was able to get my hands on this kit that is complete. It has the seals, it has the bearings for the top and bottom, and I went with better set of wheel bearings, which are the Koyo brand, Japanese. Now you're going to want to get yourself a good wire brush, and maybe a set of different wire brush also helps just because you're going to need to clean a lot of parts. I wanted everything to be as best as and as clean as possible to make sure that it ensured a good seal with the new gasket and silicones on some of the parts that you're going to need to put here. So that's the reason why I use a lot of brake cleaner and elbow grease to get these bad boys almost like new. With all the grease cleaned up, now it's time to remove the inner and outer race. Since we'll be installing new bearings, it's only fair to put those new races to make sure that those bearings ensure a long life. So here you're going to get your brass hammer and your brass punch and just punch it right out. There's a notch on either end, and you want to be consistent with this system and push on one side, on the other side consistently. That way it doesn't deviate from it. And you'll clearly see it where it has the indenture for you to be able to punch them right out. Something extremely simple. When installing the new inner race, what I do, I gently position the race correctly, and with that punch, I make sure that I evenly distribute the load and push down on it. Once it's been settled enough, then I use the old race to be able to finalize it and push it in. Now you want to do this in a certain way where you're able to take it out correctly. So you want to put the thicker end on the flatter end to be able to punch it out once you twist it around. race is installed, it's time to lube the wheel bearings. Now, you want to put a nice bulk of grease on your palm and push that bearing right onto you so it could jam it inside the actual wheel bearing itself. And you want to go throughout this process very carefully to make sure that you ensure there's grease inside. You just don't want it on the outside, you want it inside that bearing, and then you lube it up on the actual race itself. To be able to split this axle in half, I use the force of the axle itself, and make sure that once that shaft dropped, it hit something softer, where I put a piece of wood, and that way I was able to remove it completely, because the end goal was to make sure that I re-lubed completely the bearings inside this axle with the correct bearing. And here I just use a Ziploc bag to be able to force it and jam it inside.
Slightly off. So when position here, you don't want that. We'll use the old one.
Unfortunately, when I go to install the new seal, it's completely the wrong part. So I made sure I ordered a new one and waited a few days until it came. Since a lot of work went into this truck, I decided to do a part 2 to the video. Be sure to check it out once it comes out. And this is where we're going to leave it off. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and follow.